Hello and welcome back to the Fortify Coaching Podcast with me, Joe.
And me, Nina.
So today we're going to try something. We came up with the idea to do a little segment today called Ask Joe. And I have no idea what the questions are going to be, but Nina promises that she's got me some good questions that she's going to ask me that I'm then going to give some answers to, and I'm completely unprepared. And to make matters worse, I'm feeling a bit delicate and a bit tired today.
Why?
So we'll see how that goes. Well, on Saturday, I somehow managed to stay up past about 9 o'clock, which is when I normally fall asleep, and I stayed up till 5 in the morning drinking alcohol. So yesterday wasn't a good day, and today is a very tired day. It's the downside of having fun.
And being old.
The downside of being having fun, like I said, yeah.
Can't do 5 a.m.s at your age, Joe.
I'd normally wake up then, not go to sleep.
You know, exactly.
Right.
It's technically 4 a.m. because the clocks went forward,
Well, I'm saying 5.
just to be more hardcore.
Just because that's what was the time.
Okay, so 5 questions.
5 questions. on
Can
Ask
be
Joe.
anything.
Can be, well, within reason, I would hope.
Yeah, health and fitness.
Yeah.
Okay. One, it's quite a general one, but I'm gonna start general that we get asked quite often is what should you eat before a workout?
Before a workout, what should you eat? Well, I guess this is all personal preference, and there's no right or wrong or right way to answer this. It really just depends on how you feel. For some people, they don't have to eat before a workout. Some people like to have food before a workout. For instance, if you train at 6 o'clock in the morning, even 7 o'clock in the morning, it might not be practical to eat before you train. And if you do so, it might just eat into your calorie allowance for that day, your food allowance for that day. So sometimes eating before you work out isn't practical. However, if you're in a position where you can eat before you train, let's say 1 to 2 hours before you train would be a good time to eat, then you probably want some form of protein and some form of carbohydrates. You want protein in every meal, really, where possible, because it's essential for building muscle. It's essential for stopping the breakdown of muscle tissue as well. So it does 2 things, protein within the body. It maximizes muscle protein synthesis, or it helps with muscle protein synthesis, and it limits muscle protein breakdown. So 2 things that you need if you want to keep and build muscle. So protein around training times is going to be good for you, and carbohydrates to help fuel you. Now, none of them are essential because you could train without those things, but if you are in a position where you eat and you feel like you benefit from having food in your system, you feel stronger when you've ate, then that would be a good example. And it can be anything, it can be a banana in a protein shake, it can be a chicken and rice meal or chicken and pasta, whatever you fancy really, but carbs because they're your body's preferred energy source to fuel your training, and some protein as well.
See, I could not, absolutely not, train fasted. I think it's mental when people train fasted. I just couldn't do it. I can feel the difference when I haven't eaten. So a lot of clients that do train at 6 a.m. in the morning, I totally get why they don't want to have a big meal before the train. But I do think there is a difference when people do eat because they're coming from an 8-hour fast in general. So I do think a little bit of carbohydrate could go a long way, even if it's just half a banana, or even like having a little, like those little OJs that you can get?
OJs, orange juices.
Yeah, the little OJs.
Yeah.
Like those, I can't remember the name of them. Tropicana ones.
Yeah.
Like a little mini one of them on the way to the gym will give you some sugar and you'll be able to push the training.
I rarely eat anything without protein with it. But I always, not always, but most days I will train fasted anyway. I'll train about 7 o'clock in the morning and I never eat before it.
Is that optimal?
I don't think it makes a difference. Doesn't affect my training.
I suppose if you're used to it.
There is the type of training you do as well that would make a difference. If you're doing a really intense workout, or a lengthy, workout over 90 minutes, or you're doing a heavy kind of 1 rep max or heavy strength session, then you probably will fare on having food first. But if your goal is just doing some exercise, or your goal is doing kind of bodybuilding style training, then it probably isn't as important. That's my take on it.
Yeah. We'll agree to disagree on that one. I tell all my clients to train, even my 6amers, to train, to eat. Well, not eat. Like I say, I'm happy for them to have just like a little OJ.
Little OJ.
Yeah, a little OJ before the train. Doesn't have to be protein based, but definitely carbs. Okay. Let's have a little look. Okay, this is another normal one that we get quite often. Would cardio affect my gains in the gym?
Would cardio affect your gains? Well, it again, I hate saying it depends, but it depends.
Most of these questions are going to be it depends.
If your goal is to build muscle, then extreme amounts of cardio probably will. Because when you're trying to build muscle, like I said in the last question, you need to be able to maximize muscle protein synthesis, but you also need to be able to limit muscle protein breakdown. And your muscle protein will break down if you are in a big calorie deficit, or if you're going through long periods of time without food. So basically, if you burn a lot of fuel without replacing it. So if you are doing a lot of cardio, you're expending a lot of calories, then you will be eating into some of that muscle tissue. But if you're feeding yourself adequately throughout the day, then you're going to limit that. So no, I mean, it doesn't have to be, but you need to make sure that everything that you do around your cardio is correct for your goals. So if your goal is to build muscle and that's what you want to focus on, then you need to make sure that you're fueling your cardio sessions as well as your workouts. The downside is that if your goal is to build muscle, but for whatever reason, let's say you've signed up to an endurance marathon as well at the same time, then they're almost fighting against each other, because when you're trying to build muscle, you need to at least eat at maintenance, slight surplus even. And then if you're training for a marathon, you're going to be burning a lot of calories at the same time. So it just means that you're having to replace those calories.
Yeah.
And unless you're a big eater, for some people that might be a challenge, really.
Yeah. I always say to people, building muscle is energy expensive. So if then you're spending more calories on cardio, it's not going to really work out unless you're eating them back, like you say.
A little analogy that I like to, well, that I've just made up actually, is it's like building muscle is like saving money. If you're trying to save money, but you're spending it at the same time, or more than you need, then it's going to just make building muscle harder.
Yeah. Okay, let's go into rest.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, first question. Before that question, I know you don't know what I'm going to ask, so it doesn't matter. In terms of DOMS, so delayed onset of muscle soreness.
Yeah.
Should you be feeling DOMS after every single workout that you do?
No.
Why not?
I thought you were just going to leave it there. Why not? Because it isn't normal to. I think some people expect, or some people have the expectation that if they don't feel DOMS after every single workout, then they haven't pushed themselves hard enough. Mm-hmm. If they've trained legs and they aren't sore for 3 days after, that they just haven't done enough in that session. But that's not the case. You know, when it comes to making progress, it's about seeing progress over a period of time. So lifting heavier weights, getting more reps out over a period of months, weeks, months, even. And you won't always be sore of doing that. There will be times when your training change. Let's say you start a new training program and some of the exercises are different, the rep ranges are different, then you will likely feel more sore than you have done, previously. But as your body adapts to that sort of training, and it gets used to doing that, then no, you won't always continuously have DOMS. It's wrong to chase DOMS.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, the question I was going to ask, how often should I have a rest day? Is this question 4?
Yes, it's the fourth one you've asked, which makes question 4. How often should you have a rest day? Again, it depends on your goals. It depends on your lifestyle. It depends what works for you. If there are no limitations on what you can do, you probably still want 1 to 2 rest days a week. And by rest days, you don't have to sit on the couch all day doing nothing. You can still move. You can still go for a nice walk. You can swim even. It just means that you have to do a little bit less than normal. So for most people, they probably shouldn't weight train every single day because your body will get tired. You will get fatigued. Your CNS, your central nervous system will get shot and run down a little bit. So you do need to rest. But as long as you're having 1 to 2 days a week off the weights, where you're not pushing yourself and you're just doing something else, use it as an opportunity to stretch, to do some yoga, to get outside for a nice walk. Just a couple of days rest a week. But it all depends. It all needs to fit in with your goals, really.
Cool. Okay, 5th question, and it's kind of like a 5th and a 6th.
Okay.
What should you prioritize, nutrition or training, when you are building muscle? What should you prioritize for fat loss, nutrition or training?
So 2
And
separate
why?
questions.
And why on both?
So the first question, what should you prioritize, nutrition or training for muscle building?
Yeah.
Training, absolutely.
Why?
Because you can probably still build muscle even if your nutrition isn't as good as you'd like it to be.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the key components of building muscle is making sure that you're training hard enough, something that not everybody does. So to build muscle, you have to make progress with what you're lifting, like I said in the last question. So you have to get stronger each week. And yes, nutrition does play a part in that, because if you aren't properly fueled, if you aren't looking after your nutrition, getting enough protein in, getting enough carbs in, enough energy in, then you're not going to be able to push yourself harder in the gym. But training still is paramount. Even if your nutrition was perfect but you weren't getting in the gym, you're not going to grow muscle. Whereas your nutrition, when you're trying to build muscle, can probably be less than perfect as long as you're training hard enough.
Yep.
And consistent enough.
Any other way around?
For fat loss, quite kind of the opposite, really. You can lose fat without doing any training at all.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not what you should do. But you can absolutely just focus solely on nutrition. And for some people, if you had a client who was morbidly obese, you would probably just want them to focus on nutrition, because that's the thing that's going to elicit the biggest change. And it's the hardest thing for them to do. Getting a morbidly obese client to go to the gym to weight train 5 times a week isn't nowhere near as important as to get them to focus on what's going in their mouths. So nutrition, when it comes to fat loss, is the most important thing. And without the right nutrition, the right amount of calories going in versus going out, then you're not going to see fat loss, regardless of how hard you train in the gym. So nutrition always trumps training when it comes to fat loss. You can still, focus on moving around a little bit and things like that, but you definitely want to focus on your nutrition. But it would be unwise not to train either. If you're a regular kind of lifestyle client who wants to lose, 10 pounds, 5 pounds, a stone or 2 even, then you need to focus on your nutrition mainly, but you should absolutely be doing some sort of weight training as well alongside of that, because you want to make sure, or I would like to think that the goal of your goal to lose fat is also to look better along with it. If it's not for, if it's to improve your health, you probably have an aesthetic goal as well. So you probably want to make sure that you're doing some sort of weight training as well.
Cool. That was 5.
5 questions, 6. Easy. No other ones?
Nope.
No. Well, that was easy. I thought the questions might have been a little bit tougher than that.
Oh. Well, you didn't say challenging questions.
Well,
we'll do this podcast again with more advanced ones.
Well, if anyone does have any more challenging questions or questions that they'd like to know the answer to, then send us a message on any of our social medias. And if you're on our email list, you'll be able to send us an email with some questions there, and we will answer them on the podcast, or in the meantime, we'll probably drop you a message to reply to them, which is always useful. We always like hearing from our listeners as well. So yeah, thanks for tuning in, and we will look forward to speaking to you on the next podcast.
Thank you.